So welcome to Conversations with Melissa. This is an event presented by RenaFi. RenaFi provides practical, research-based advice courses and peer support, focusing on the underlying drivers of our ADHD behavior. We provide a holistic program that serves to help you thrive with ADHD, not in spite of it. Visit RenaFi, RenaF as in Frank, I.com to learn more about what we have to offer. And remember to check out our YouTube channel for ADHD resources and information. Today, I'm with my spouse, Doug Snyder. We're going to be talking about sleep experiments, the sleep group that we just ran at RenaFi, a sleep accountability group, the outcomes and lessons learned.
Lucky me. Hey guys, we're here today to listen to us and hopefully get some things that are meaningful to you and also share some of what's happening with you. And so my exploration has been kind of I should sleep more. I want to sleep more. I have a hard time going to bed. And, it should be the thing to do. And if you notice in there's a lot of shoulds and this wanting to do something different and knowing that's probably going to be beneficial, but not getting any traction. And then, feeling bad about it and, trying to answer these questions. Why can't I do this? Used to be before this big productivity kick, before screen time and TV, people used to get 8 hours of sleep. And that has been evolutionary, that 3 million years, our systems have adapted to have about 8 hours sleep, a third of the time that we're alive every given day, sleeping for 8 hours. And knowing that it's not easy. If we could just snap a finger and do it, it's a bunch of habits to get to that point, and also a bunch of things are the deck stacked against us with this as people in the United States or all we got people from Australia, but this idea that that we're busy, we're supposed to be doing all this stuff, the fear of missing out, and then you throw on screen time and all this, and then if you're showing up here today, you're likely to know somebody or be somebody that has ADHD and that cognitive, functions associated with executive functions, planning, executing, all those things really rely on your brain being tip top. And I now know that I'm not doing myself any favors, and it's not me being bad, right? It's not a judgment. It is biology and then society making it super easy not to get sleep. Melissa, through RenaFi, has really been treating this as an experiment and how to start getting awareness about what's really happening. This, am I getting enough or not? I don't know. It gets into a judgment instead of trying to just capture what is and then be able to go, that's interesting. Now what? And so instead of judgment, more of what's happening now so I can decide if it's fine or I'd like to do something about it, how to do something about it. And the most important question would be, who are you going to do it with? Because if you could do it by yourself, you would have already done it by now.
I can tell you the things we learned in our group, where I've come up with some archetypes, some sleep archetypes or participant archetypes. So I came up with a couple of names, and some of them got kind of smushed into one. So I'm actually going to escalate this to the top, which is you picked a hell of a time to work on sleep. It took me a little while on this journey of you picked a hell of a time to get that. For people with ADHD, it's always going to be a hell of a time. When we ask people, they've always got a lot of stuff that's on their mind, that's weighing on them. So I have kind of a reframe on that. You picked a hell of a time, which is, when's the best time for self-care? Right now, right now when you need it, right? I think any time that we pick to work on this there's going to be a lot of conflicting priorities, and we're a stand for our well-being around sleep, because we know I think all of us intrinsically know this. We can go pull some science to show it, that the sleep is going to make the biggest impact in all parts of our lives, our work life, and even our relating to, your temper is shorter when you've had less sleep. You have less bandwidth is how we say that sometimes.
What one person just said, I have sleep issues due to emotions and biology. Yes, that is true for all of us. So as a foundational, like what is, that is absolutely true. And it's a great place to start, because nowhere in there is about you not doing something. It's like, okay, there's some biology things going on here, and there's some emotions, which is how do you pause and be able to do the sleep thing? Because somebody said, I work through the day and I get this and I don't feel ready to shut down, or I get energized at night. So there's a lot about ADHD in the world of accomplishing, doing, noticing things that happen, feeling good enough, and relationships and your emotions, your relationships with other people, being your word. All these things weigh on us and can impact our sleep. I also know, if you're overtired, what really happens here is that your executive function goes out the door. So whatever executive function that you have already, with ADHD, and then you're overtired, you really have very low executive function. It's biology, but yet that means that we're susceptible to being distracted, being, hey, look at screen time, looking at some other things, not wanting to go to sleep, trying to give yourself some time, because you've been busy, some me time, right? All these things are true. So these comments are fantastic. Hey, I wake up several times. I like to get a lot of sleep. Routines are boring. Yeah, they sure are. They are boring when you think about them as a routine. All these things are very difficult. So I see some people get some naps. So these things are really kind of that baseline. And if somebody else external, if you shared your problem with them, they can always come up with some sort of, path to get from here to there, a perfect path, right? And it might be optimal, and it might even be optimal for most people. But what we're figuring out is that it needs to be optimal for you. It has to start where you are right now and start building on it. So this idea of completely changing all your sleep habits to be some other magical person is probably going to be super tough and not achievable. But yet know, okay, this is what I have been doing, and this kind of works for me. So some of you guys will say that you're a night owl. Now, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but circumstances have gotten to the point where, hey, it's quiet at that time, I feel relaxed, I can do work that time, or I can be myself. If that's where you're at right now, that's a great place to start about, okay, now how do you augment your sleep and do something better for yourself in there? So again, this becomes an experiment of who are you right this second? That becomes with starting being this awareness, and Melissa will talk about this tracking that she's been pioneering with RenaFi, and people asking questions about where you are right now and what are some things that you can do right this second today, to practical tips to start, improving what is. And then you do it for a while, you'll start to have some more distinctions, go, oh, well, I can do this now, and I can do something more in this. I can add something else into this instead of a complete, I'm going to do a different routine, completely different than I am, and pretend that that's going to work.
The pie in the sky, right? I'm magically going to become a morning person and go to bed at 9 p.m. Our first steps in our group were to do some tracking, not necessarily to look to make any changes, but to track. And that,
what is it really? What did you discover from that tracking? What kind of things that people get from just that exercise, that awareness thing?
Well, that's the thing that we get is awareness, because we imagine that we have a bedtime, let's say, for example, midnight, right? Maybe that we think that we go to bed. And once we start tracking it, we really learn that we think we go to bed at midnight. But when we start to really write it down or use a tool or in any way where we're tracking it and we know, that we're not really we don't know. We did not know really when we were going to bed. And only with the writing it down some way did we find out what was truly happening, right? Was the awareness. The awareness just wasn't there. And I mean, we could say that about the ADHD in general, that there's some difficulty with awareness. There's some, you know, short-term memory and working memory is at a deficit. So this idea, how else would we know unless we either were religiously following a routine, right? Then we'd know for sure, but we're not, none of us are that great about that. So that was one of the things, is this a first awareness, right? So we had an idea of a target bedtime, and then we had the, when do we get in the bed? When do we get out of the bed? And a couple hours later, how do we feel? That same kind of scale of 1 to 5, like, let's keep it simple. And why do we do this a couple hours later? When you learn about sleep, you learn that sleep, you don't actually just wake up. You're not just at maximum alert. I mean, maybe if your house was on fire or there was an earthquake here in California, you're very alert. But there is a wake up window that's about 45 minutes. We can source science for that. And that 45 minutes, kind of, we want to guard that and keep it sacred in many ways. Like, let's not pollute it with looking at email first thing or reading the news. You know, maybe it's classical music and just your cup of coffee, or outside time, however you want to wake up. But that sets the tone for the rest of your day. That 45 minutes and what happens in that 45 minutes sets the tone.